So, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to be sworn in shortly for a third term. The governing political alliance unanimously elected him as its leader on Thursday. Modi's BJP party failed to get the majority seats in the general elections, forcing it to form a coalition government. Looking at here at pictures of the ceremony, which will be held shortly at the presidential palace there. The governing political alliance, as I say, unanimously elected him as leader on Thursday. Let's take this on with Arfa Shawani, who's a senior editor at The Wire, an Indian news and opinion website, joins us now from New Delhi. Good to have you with us. So another 5 years, but it's been a bruising election this time round for Modi.
Yes, it's a very interesting election results and kind of funny in a way that, the political party which has won the election is not able to celebrate it the way it would have. And the political party which has not managed to get the majority is all re-energized and reinvigorated. And a large part of Indian population, Indian voters are taking a sigh of relief. The reason perhaps is because they are feeling that India's descent into authoritarianism is contained. We've seen the one defining character of Mr. Modi's last 1 decade of rule has been that he's tried to weaken the constitution, weaken democracy, and weaken the national institutions.
So how diminished do you think Narendra Modi is now politically?
Well, people perhaps they are saying that Narendra Modi is demonetized in a way. He demonetized the Indian currency, and the electorate has responded in a way that they have demonetized Mr. Modi. See, let me tell you, in the last 30 years of Mr. Modi's political career, this is the first time, whether it was the Chief Minister Modi or the Prime Minister Modi, for the first time ever, that he's not received the mandate. And this is going to be a coalition government. So I think the era of Narendra Modi as the supreme leader, as this person who is the tallest leader, who in Hindi we call it Hindu Hriday Samrat, as son of the soil, who used to rule over the Hindu hearts, trying to convert India from a secular democracy to a Hindu nation, a theocratic Hindu nation. I feel Mr. Modi's ambitions, such ambitions will be curtailed, and he will be forced to work under, a government which is primarily a coalition government with two political partners, which happen to have their political base. Even Muslims vote for these political parties. So you have a political party which is a majoritarian political party, which does religious sectarian politics, which is an alliance with two political parties who are called secular parties. So it is going to be a very interesting, even for journalists like me, to watch.
Right. As we watch Narendra Modi, he's set to be sworn in as Prime Minister for a third term in power and a coalition government. He's all about India's economic progress, isn't he? And the building of India into a developed country by 2047. How will that plan now be affected? And what was it about that plan that lots of voters didn't like? Yes.
So I think this is the most important question that Mr. Modi will also wonder, and also people like me who've traveled, through the length and width of the country in the last 2 months, from north to west to each corner in each state of the country. I realized if there was one problem that Mr. Modi was facing to get the third term that he was asking for, was the economic distress. And not just economic distress in general, but particularly the rural distress. And that is why more than 70 seats that Mr. Modi has lost in this election is primarily because of rural India and how rural India kind of responded to his economic promises. Remember, 1 decade ago, when Mr. Modi became Prime Minister, his whole claim to fame was that he was this economic reformer who's going to turn India into a world power, economic world power, and he's not been able to deliver on his promise. So I think this is one single agenda, one single problem that Mr. Modi faced, and which actually directly benefited the opposition, was unemployment, and second was inflation, and third was the rural economic distress. So it's going to be very interesting that when one supposedly, strong leader couldn't deliver on his economic promise, How is he going to function in a coalition government where
Right.
his government is entirely dependent on two coalition partners?
And as he waits there to be sworn in, I guess he may reflect that his diminished position is simply a virtue of democracy in action.
Definitely. And we must realize that, the people of India have not just chosen the government, but they have also chosen the opposition. So I think this is a very necessary course correction and necessary balance in a democracy where Mr. Modi, who comes from Gujarat, he was a chief minister for over a decade to now, prime minister for now a decade. For the first time, he will taste the taste of democracy, that what a democracy is, that he will have to adjust, he will have to accommodate. And more specifically, let me also talk about the ideological agenda. So both these political parties who are going to be in alliance with Mr. Modi are said to be secular parties. In fact, one of the parties, TDP, in their manifesto, they have announced plans where they will be taking positive steps for economic and social and political development for the Muslim community. For over a decade in Andhra Pradesh, they have a 4% Muslim reservation. So on one hand, you have a political party, BJP, which is against Muslims. Many of their leaders having even spoken against Muslims being given voting rights. They actually wanted to politically disenfranchise them. And, in this election, even in the last election, they have not given ticket to a single Muslim, a political ticket to single Muslim to contest the election. So on one hand, you have a political party, which is a thoroughly, openly, directly anti-Muslim party. And then you have two alliance partners. So I would say the role of opposition, the role of the civil society, the role of journalists with this coalition government has only increased.
Great to have your perspective. Do appreciate that, Arfa Shawani. Thanks very much indeed, as we've been watching the scenes at the presidential palace of Narendra Modi, set to be sworn in as Prime Minister for a third time. Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.